Thanks to APTA for having me out here. I'm gonna apologize ahead of time. I'm clearing my throat a lot. It sounded a little bit sick. It's because I took my daughter to the pediatrician on Friday and she's 12. I thought it'd be funny to read her a kid's book and embarrass her. And she said, "Dad, if you touch the book, you're gonna get sick." And she was 100% right. So I've been kicking that for a few days and feeling much better, but still getting over that. So I apologize if I'm clearing my throat a lot. First of all, thanks for coming. This has been, this is not an environment that we spend a lot of time in. Let me go ahead and just say that. We have not been involved with the APTA ever. And recently we were invited to come and present on the cash-based business models by their leadership. And it's been really, honestly, it's been great to see them leaning into this. I think for a lot of people, especially coming out of the profession around the year 3 to 5 mark, we start to question whether we're in the right space, especially if we're in a very high volume setting. And we've, kind of felt this for a long time. We've worked with a lot of clinics. But being here, and even yesterday, the amount of conversations we had that were just like interested in an alternative model, interested in using your skill set in a slightly different way, it's refreshing. And I think that I'll just lead with, I'm very excited for our profession. And I think that generally, that's not the message that we hear as often. So I'm excited to share with you, kind of what we've been doing and what we've learned. And I am interested, do you have your own clinic? Raise your hand if you do. We just talked to these guys. 10 years in business, these guys in the front, by the way. That is a huge accomplishment. That is a very, very cool thing. So, okay. This is Outkast. All right, I'm from Atlanta. All right, like Outkast, a big deal. And in 2025, they got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So at this speech, Andre 3000, who's in the blue jersey, he says, great things start in little rooms. And he goes on to talk about how, when they made their first album, they were 17 years old. They were in their friend's basement called The Dungeon. If anybody's familiar with Outkast, Dungeon Family, that's their musical group. That's their buddies that played in the high school band that would play trumpet and trombone for the background of their music. And they made their first album in the crawl space, basically, of their friend's house. And went on to eventually, they sold 25 million albums, got inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And he talks about how everything that's great starts in a little space. And I want to highlight, some of that today and kind of show you that you don't have to have $1 million of seed investments to get started. In fact, your story is probably a lot more interesting if you, start in a little room. So this is my first little room. So this was 2014 in Atlanta, Georgia. This is in a windowless room in a CrossFit gym. Day one, I'll tell you just like how sketchy this place was. Day one, there was a car break-in right as I was walking out with my patient. Somebody on there, is really on them, they left their laptop in the passenger seat of the car. Somebody broke their window. One of the personal trainers was there, had previously played in the NBA and overseas in basketball, huge athletic human being, chased the guy down, pins him down on the ground, restrains him till the police get there. And this all is happening as I'm walking out with my very first patient ever. So, I thought to myself, what did I get myself into? Because I had, prior to that, had been active duty in the U.S. Army. And this is literally a little bit less than a year prior. And at the time, we're stationed in Schofield Barracks, which is in Hawaii. So those of you that are familiar with the military, this is probably the premier assignment you could possibly get. Tropical island, fantastic job. I was in a brigade, had a lot of autonomy over, what I was doing, when I was doing it, doing a lot of strength conditioning work, a lot of injury prevention work. But then the Army said, hey man, you've been here for 3 years. It's time for you to go. So they sent me to Columbus, Georgia, which is Fort Benning. This is this is an airborne school, which is what I was assigned to, which sounds really cool in theory, but in actuality, it's just stress fractures and ankle sprains. So it was really, not really what I was looking for. And it was very high volume because this is a, sick call hour troop clinic. So meaning between the hours of 6 and 8, if you're hurt, you can just show up and we'll see you. And sometimes that's 10 people and sometimes that's 30. And if you can imagine in a 2-hour period, that plus the administrative burden of it, plus another 10 or 12 patients afterward, I got to a point where the sheer volume of everything was wearing me down. So at the same time, I got involved with Kelly and Juliet Starrett, and I started collaborating with them on protocols we were testing in the military group I was with. They were expanding. They asked me to come on as their tactical director and run all the military programs that they have. And I did that for years. So I said yes to this job. At the same time, you can't be in the military and charge the military to work with them. So I had to leave. And I started to think, well, what am I going to do? I need flexibility. I don't know anything about insurance. I was born in the government system. TRICARE my whole life. I've never actually, until I, left the military, had to use civilian insurance. So I didn't think that it was something I wanted to figure out. And a cash clinic was something that I'd actually only seen one time. And you talk about a little room. This is Kelly's first office, by the way. I don't know how many of you have ever seen this. This is a huge throwback. This is in a gym that they started in a parking lot between a concrete plant and a sporting goods store called a Sports Basement in the Presidio in San Francisco. So if you look at this, this space, this is a rented Connex box that was his office. It's the first cash clinic I ever saw. And he had a wait list of people to come see him. Mind you, this is prior to him becoming far more well-known than he is today. This is 2011. He hadn't even written his first book. He was in the process of edits. And I remember, it was so small, I couldn't even go in there with him and a patient. And he had to kind of shimmy around the outside just to make it work. But he could actually get his foot up on the wall and leverage a lot of force into somebody's hip if he needed to, which was a benefit. Pretty cool. But this is the first time I saw this, and I said, hey man, what do you charge? What are you charging people? And he was charging $250 an hour, and he had a wait list. And he just was a great provider, and he had a great reputation. So I said, well, shit, man, I could just get an office in an actual building and be better off than that. It probably would work in Atlanta. So when I left, and had some conversations with a few mentors who were successful private practice owners in an insurance-based model, this is what they told me. They said, okay, you're creating a job, not a business. I was cool with that. I wanted low volume, basically. And flexibility. It's unscalable. You're never going to hire anybody. All right, cool, I'm fine with that too. People won't pay cash unless they're affluent, only the affluent population. All right, well, I guess I got to find the rich people. I was figuring it out as I went. Sounds fun and good luck is basically what I heard. So I honestly was okay with all of that, mostly because I just wanted to be able to work with people the way I wanted to work with them. And this was the platform for me to be able to do that. The reality is today, these are very different. And maybe we got lucky. Maybe it's just that insurance has gotten far worse. A combination probably of both, which I'll talk about. But the reality is these are very scalable. The guys in the front are about to open their third office. So this isn't just a job that you create for yourself. And they're not the only ones, by the way. These are not an alien, that just showed up here. We work with, literally have worked with thousands of clinics across the US, Canada, the UK, and Australia. And it works in socialized medical countries. It's something that's changed a lot. It's very valuable. And I'll talk about this because the idea of starting a business that you can never sell, I think is a bad idea. I probably would never do that. Not to say that everybody wants to sell, but at least you want to have the option to be able to do so, which is one of the benefits of a business. You can't sell your job, but you can sell a business. People will pay cash, and they're not just the affluent population. We have firefighters, police officers, teachers, you name it, people who value their body, they value their health, prioritize this, and they do so over many other things that other people like to spend their money on. And then the last thing is the flexibility of the model compared to insurance is one of the biggest advantages. In fact, we were just talking before the presentation about recurring small group training models that we can run. Most clients know how to do this, and it's one of the best ways to stabilize revenue and recurring revenue in your business. And it's very hard to do this in an insurance-based world, and also the skill set is probably not there for them to actually be able to do it correctly. So we have a lot of advantages. But when I first got started, this was my NBA Jam skill set. If anybody, raise your hand if you know NBA Jam, because I hope I'm not dating myself. Okay. For those of you who don't know, NBA Jam is a basketball video game where it's 2-on-2, and you have two players and they have different skills, right? So 3-point shooting, speed, defense. This is my NBA Jam skills, okay? Good clinician, horrific business owner, lots of effort, okay? This is usually where most of us start. We try really hard because we're scared, or we have a chip on our shoulder, and we're usually a pretty good clinician, so we get good outcomes. And that's enough to actually replace your job. You could just stop there if you want to replace your income. We call these lifestyle businesses. You may say to yourself, okay, well, maybe I just want to have a clinic where I'm working 2 days a week and I can spend more time with my family. That's a lifestyle business, and they're awesome if it's the right fit for you. You could say, you know what, I want to scale past that, right? And if you want to scale past that, well, you need to change your skill set. Your skill set for me, when I started to focus on, all right, I realized the business understanding of how to hire and retain and understand finance and HR and develop systems and sales and marketing and all these things. When I started to focus on that, my skill set started to change. But what also happened was my effort went down, not in a bad way. I was working, 60 to 80 hours a week, like just killing myself, which you can do for a period of time. It's unsustainable after a while, especially if you have a family like I did. So, the effort side is really the key. And it's about finding momentum. And I'm going to talk about this real quick because I think that if you take anything away from what I'm going to say, it's that this is the only reason that we have a physics prerequisite to get into PT school. Because I always wondered when I was literally struggling to get through physics and wondering why am I learning about circuits before I go to PT school. Aside from the moment arm, this is the only thing. And this is important to remember, okay? Momentum equals mass times velocity. If I weigh 180 pounds and somebody weighs 250 and we run into each other, I'm going to fall over. I'm going to not win that one, right? Because they have more momentum than I do. They have more mass, same velocity, they win. When we look at business, and I think you can apply this not just at business, but frankly, not to get too philosophical on you, but life in general, the more accurate you are with your effort, the more momentum you're going to gain in what you're trying to do. Hands down, period. This is a stomp the foot moment. It's easily the most important thing you can remember for what I'm going to say today. And it's important for you to take just as much time to think about what are you doing and spending your time on and disassociate from that. We talk about a 30,000 foot view. So from an elevated view, what are you trying to accomplish? What do you need to do to get there? And then how can you focus the most on the things that are high leverage tasks, high leverage skills? That way your effort is amplified by the accuracy and you gain more momentum. Anybody who's in business, you know what it feels like when your business has momentum and when it's stuck. And when it's stuck, it sucks. When you have momentum, it's the most fun game in the world, right? So we chase this and we feel this and we want to ride it as much as we can. But when I started focusing on this and I started to really focus on focused efforts, all of a sudden, hey man, I freed up time. I could travel again, spend more time with my family. I could get back to training. My health, all these things that you let drop off because you're just working your butt off. So that's really important. Not only do we see that, we saw expansion in our business. We saw our ability to really be better business owners and provide jobs for more and more clinicians. We grew to multiple locations, and multiple businesses, which not everybody does that with their free time. But for me, I guess that's what I do. I just fill my time with more businesses. So this was the unlock for us, was really focusing on momentum and understanding that. And it's something that I'd figured out, and we decided to share this. And excuse the profanity, but the first book that I wrote was called Fuck Insurance. And it, it's supposed to look like a 90s CD you weren't allowed to buy. And that we want to share information that was basically, things that the profession wasn't talking about. We updated it, revised it. We actually gave out a bunch of these yesterday, which was super cool. And it's just a field manual for you to understand how to get started in these businesses, right? To date, we've worked with over 1,000 clinicians. Our goal is to add $1 billion in cash-based services to the profession on an annual basis. We are about a third of the way there, which is wild to think that we're probably about $300 million in total recurring revenue, or annual revenue, just by cash-based services alone. But we still have a long way to go, right? And that's why we're here, because we want to share this. So the agenda today is going to look like this. I'm going to share some examples of thriving clinics today, but where they started. And I think it's important for you to see that. I want to talk about how we've seen the landscape change and what we think is going to happen over the next decade. And then I want to leave time to be able to just have a discussion. This is actually a really big room, and I don't know if I'm going to be able to hear you very well. Maybe if we have a runner, we can have some Q&A with a mic. In the middle there? Okay, cool. But real quick, not our whole team, some of our team are here. This is Ian, our creative director. Courtney is back here, who's our head coach. My business partner, Eve Gigi, is back here as well. If you have any questions about this business model, or you own a business like this and you just want to talk to people that love talking about business, like you want to nerd out with somebody, we're down, man. That's why we're here. We would love to have a conversation. So speaking of Eve, this is Eve Gigi's clinic. It's called Made to Move. This is his first office. So his little room. This is in Daniel Island, which is a suburb of Charleston. He has a nicer table than me, by far, and a window. This is like a suite compared to where we're at. This is amazing. And he wasn't there very long. great clinician, great in his community, and the word spreads really fast when you do that. Now, they have multiple locations throughout Charleston, they're in Charlotte as well, and they're expanding even more so out of that. And I think as you look at clinics over the next few years, this is one to keep an eye on. I think you're going to see a lot of expansion with this. They're doing everything right. Their team is growing. This is them at an offsite. More than anything, you know, they're creating great jobs for the community, for our profession, where people can really go see lower volume, have a sustainable career, and make just as much money as they could working at an in-network clinic seeing high volume. And that's our goal, right? It's like we see at the 5-year mark, a lot of PTs, they get disgruntled, they leave, they go do something non-clinical, right? They could be a great PT, they're just in the wrong setting. So we're trying to save as many of those people as we can. This is the method. This is Jaxie Meth. Jaxie is one of our coaches. She's in Boston. This is one of my favorite clinics in the entire country. Orthopelvic niche. This is her first clinic. Prior to this, she actually started mobile. So she would walk around with all her gear. She would even treat people in the Commons, the park in the middle of Boston, and just meet them and whatever, do an hour. She graduated to this first office. She's got a little spot for her dog, which is awesome because it's work-life balance for us. We want to have whatever, we want to make it whatever we want, right? And fast forward to now, Jaxie has 2 clinics opening a third in the next couple of months. She actually bought this building that has all the awesome stonework. This is in Charlestown area in Boston. Amazing team, one of the best branded clinics that I've seen in the country. Just look at how happy everybody looks in these pictures. I mean, fuck's sake. You go to some hospital clinics, you think you see that there? No way, right? Like, this is what we're trying to do. We're trying to create environments that people want to work in for a long time, and also help people with their health get out of pain, but then what do you want to do after that? And I'll talk about that, because I think that's a really important step that we can take as a profession that's also great for your business. So another great example, Jaxie. This is Courtney's clinic. This might be the most interesting start to this story. Outkast started in the dungeon. Courtney started in a hair salon. All right, no kidding, in a hair salon, renting a booth in Wichita, Kansas. Courtney, how long were you in the hair salon for? 6 months. That's a long time to be in a hair salon treating people as a physical therapist. Moved on to a gym. Eventually, they have their own space in what, by all intents and purposes, a relatively small to mid-sized market in Wichita, Kansas. And now he's got an amazing team helping their community out and doing things in a way that I think a lot of people 10, 12 years ago didn't think would work in a town like Wichita. So here's the truth. I mean, this is just the reality. And if you want to see what people are feeling that are students, some of you might be students, new grads right now, it's this. Right? You got 7 years of school under your belt. They say the average student loans are $120,000 coming out to make an $80,000 salary. The math doesn't add up. You know what I'm saying? Like, something's off there. Okay, so then let me throw high volume at you. Let me burn you out after a couple years. Minimal upward mobility and time flexibility. Here's a real kicker, right? We hired a guy about a year ago in our clinic in Atlanta. And the breaking point for him was he had to request PTO just to go to the dentist. He was like, dude, I'm going to be at the dentist for like an hour. I have to use PTO just to go to an appointment. You know, and it doesn't sound right. But that's happening to our peers, and especially in big corporate-owned clinics. So what are they going to do? Well, I think you have 3 options. And I'll give you the 3 that I talk about a lot, because starting a business is not for everybody. You know, don't romanticize it. That shit's hard. All right. If it's for you, it's for you. But if you think it's going to be easy and just make a bunch of money, please don't do it. It's a lot harder than you think. Here's the path that I think you got to focus on. Number 1, if you are in a job and you don't see a path to leave, do something else, or start your own thing, it might not be in the cards for you. Just focus on being the best at whatever it is that you do every single day. Whatever your niche is, whatever clinically you're trying to do, be the best person you can possibly be in your office, period. The chasing of excellence never actually happens, but there's a lot of fulfillment that comes from that, all right? So stop thinking the grass is always greener. Be as good as you can be in whatever setting you're in. 2, go leave. Do something else. Stop complaining about it. Go try. We have a partner marketing company. We've hired 4 physical therapists in non-clinical roles as account managers in digital marketing. You know how many of them have stuck around? 0. You know where they did? Went back to the clinic. Why? They miss the outcomes. They miss the patient interaction. They miss the mission of helping another person. That's valuable. So if you don't believe me, go become a digital marketer. Go work, go sell medical, software or whatever. Go sell, anything. Go get a job doing anything else. See how you like it. Maybe you like it better. If you want to sell roofing materials, cool. Maybe you just are in the wrong place and you need to find a low volume clinic. Third thing, do your own thing. Now, for some of you, this is the path. You have this like itch. You're like, man, I think I need to do this. It bothers you that you haven't yet. You're learning about business. You're kind of infatuated by it. You probably need to try at a minimum. Otherwise, what you end up with is regret. And one day you're going to be too old to do anything different. So you might as well give it a shot while you still have the time and just see what you do with it. You might be surprised. You might be a fantastic business owner. A lot of us, we're entrepreneurial by nature. We go into a profession that doesn't have a lot of entrepreneurs. But that doesn't mean you're not kind of wired that way. So what's changed in the last decade? Well, the biggest thing is insurance sucks more. Sorry for the formatting on this. I'll tell you the stats on this. So one interesting stat to look at is HSA coverage differences. So in the last 10 years, we've seen HSA coverage go from 20 million people to 60 million people. That's a massive difference for people who have skin in the game, ownership over their own healthcare dollars, right? It's tripled in a 10-year period, and I think it will continue to do so. If you look at deductibles, the average deductible now for a family is over $4,000. If you look at it, especially if you're in a small employer or self-employed. I don't even want to tell you what my deductible is as a self-employed person. It's a nice used car for me to max that thing out, okay? And it is what it is. We have a high premium every single month and a high deductible. But my family drinks green juice. We meditate. We exercise. We have a home gym. My kids do push-ups every single night. We are not worried about our health insurance, and we hope to never use it, but yet we have to have it anyway, and it sucks, just like everybody else. So there's more people like that. And what's funny is, I think you probably see it too, an interesting shift I think happened after COVID. People realized, whether it was obvious to us and everyone else or not, but if you have more comorbidities, you're more likely to die from anything. That's a scary thing for people to see firsthand with their family members and everything else. There's been a massive change to people investing in their health. And we're in a really cool spot to capitalize on that. And I've seen this across multiple businesses we're involved in. I think we're uniquely positioned in particular to help people not just get out of pain, but to really be that quarterback for their health and wellness long term, if that's what you're interested in. But frankly, the landscape has become better, especially if you think at the beginning of the year. Deductibles, everybody's a level playing field right now. If you can come in, let's say you're a runner and you're in Atlanta. You can go to a corporate clinic, you can go in there, everybody's either Medicare, work comp, whatever, and you're gonna work with somebody who's not a running specialist PT, not even one-on-one. You're gonna be paying out of pocket for a plan of care, probably $1,500 to $2,000. If you come to us, and you're gonna pay for a plan of care, let's call it $2,000 as well, but you get to see someone who ran collegiately, coaches runners, is a fantastic running PT, knows exactly what you're talking about, can help you not just get out of pain, but PR your 5K, and they're gonna work with you one-on-one. Which one are you gonna take? We win every fucking time, all right? And that's because we dominate a niche. That's very, very, very important. And it wasn't like that 10 years ago, and now it is. And what's cool about that is you can say, hey, I like pickleball players. I love pickleball. Cool, be the pickleball expert in your area. I promise you there's a lot of pickleball injuries. My buddy just tore his Achilles playing pickleball the other day. All right, so he could use your help if that's what you're into. All right, here's the other thing, and this has been a nuanced difference in the entry point to our businesses. Do you take my insurance? This is the killer question for everybody in a cash-based setting. It will ruin your business if you can't answer this question. That question has changed. This is what we get now. You probably don't take my insurance, do you? No, we don't, because it sucks and you know it too, right? Like, yep, all right, how can I come in and work with you? It's gotten so much easier to work with people who have insurance because their insurance is worse. And they also, like I said, have a lot more skin in the game. And when you're an informed consumer and you're aware of these other things, now all of a sudden, they're not just going where their doctor refers them. They're going where they want to go. In certain populations, the populations that we work with, right? And we have to get out there in front of them. We have to content market. We have to be in the communities. We have to go and find our people. I talk about it like hunting. Now, we're not sitting back and waiting. We're going to go find you. We're going to let you know that we can help you, and then we're going to do it. And you got to be comfortable with that. Not everybody is. That's a different type of business marketing. So even though we've seen a big jump in these, and we have some rough data around what we think, is active right now as far as these go, it's still small. So we think that there's probably 2,000 to 4,000 true cash-based clinics non-hybrid, but true cash-based clinics in the US right now. These are what I would consider not side hustles, okay? Because there's a lot of people that side hustle. They see a couple patients here or there. I talked to a bunch of people that are doing that yesterday. That's like dipping their toe in the water. I don't even include those. I think there's 2,000 to 4,000 legit, like active cash-based clinics. We've actually worked with 1,000. So there's no way we work with everybody. And there's a lot more, I just met these guys. We never worked with them. Yeah, there's one right there. I think 2,000 to 4,000 is actually where you're seeing right now. And it's a drop in the bucket from I think we're gonna see over the next 10 years. Here's why. 4% of our population of PTs is self-employed. 4%. That is very small in comparison to many other health, professions. Dentists, 65%. Chiropractors, 35%. I actually thought that one was gonna be higher. Even if we double, we went to 8%. That's still only gonna be, it's gonna be 4,000 to 8,000 of these relatively small clinics. Now that is not a huge amount, even for our own profession. And that's in many different niches. And the bigger thing is, I think one thing I've noticed here is everybody is fighting over the same people. They're all fighting over the people that know they have a problem and they're looking for physical therapy. That is a sliver of the people that are out there. Most people that have an injury, which is, actually, let's do this. Raise your hand if you're sitting here right now and you have zero pain whatsoever. Raise your hand if you have zero pain. Raise it high. That's an impressive thing, dude. Okay, look around. We are physical therapists. And we know a lot more about the body, and yet probably 80% of people in here have something going on. Me included. My neck is bugging me. Slip on my pillow weird, I guess. I don't know. Pain happens with everybody. Almost everybody, especially if they're active. So why 80% of the population we should be able to help? Let's say that, right? We're not seeing 80% of the people. There's a lot more people out there. So I'm not concerned about size of the population we can help. We haven't even scratched the surface of that. All right. So 10 years from now, where are we gonna go? I think there's 3 big trends. Number 1 is longevity. I don't know if this is the right term for this because I think this gets thrown in with like med spas, which is not our deal. But again, to go back to sort of post-COVID, and I think this was happening, it was accelerated by that, it was happening already. People are looking at their vehicle and life as an investment, not as like neglecting it. I see this firsthand. I was talking to the guy who's essentially the APTA president version of the UK last night, and he said, a trend that I'm seeing? Students are boring. He goes, when I was in school, we basically binge drank every single night and we had a great time. They're boring. He's like, they study, they journal, they're meditating, they're like, why would I drink poison, right? Like, it's pretty smart. But there's a shift in terms of where people are looking at their own health, the way they treat themselves. My parents, they're in their mid-60s. They don't grow up in like an exercise environments, right? Like people of their age didn't grow up exercising. My dad was in the Army, so he trained for PT tests and things like that. As soon as he got out of the Army, he stopped exercise. He didn't want to do it until he hurt his back. He couldn't play golf, and then now he's all about it, right? Like something had to be taken away from him for to do that. But that population in particular, this sort of like 30 to 60, they call it active aging population, views their body as an investment. Incredible group of people to work with who maybe they're not going to go to the Olympics, maybe they're not going to play on a professional team, but man, they want to be able to do cool shit with the people they like doing it with for as long as they possibly can. And that's a great group to work with. They have the time, the disposable income, and they have the will to really put into that. And they're looking for somebody that can be a partner in that. This is a really interesting study. That's not really a study, it's a survey. So CNBC did a survey of high net worth individuals. I think that it was like a $2 million net worth and above, which I know this is a skewed demographic, but I'm just going to give you what I get from this. They asked them of professional services, rank on a scale of 0 to 10, how much you value these. Number 1, personal trainers, which I thought was really interesting. I was a personal trainer in college. That's how I worked my way through school. And I can see that because we developed strong rapport. But guess what? When we work with people one-on-one in a cash-based setting, it's the same damn thing. We just had a little smarter about the skill set that we have, and we can do a bit more to help with pain. All right? The other thing, I didn't know what a golden visa is. I guess that's where you can buy citizenship in another country in case you're trying to get the heck out of here. So, all right, that's cool. Don't have one of those. But professional sport coach, what is that? Movement coach for their kids usually. Youth sport athletes, fantastic niche for us. Last one here, which would be number 5, therapy and counseling. It's funny, I ran into a buddy of mine from the Army yesterday. He's here presenting on physical therapy is a sneaky way to do mental health in the VA population. So he works in the VA hospital in Mobile, Alabama. And he says, I got these old men that are, veterans, no chance in hell they're going to go to a therapist. Can't get them to mental health. There's a stigma around it. He's like, but I can talk to them about stuff that's bothering them while they're in there for their knee, and it's physical therapy, but they're actually working on many other things. And I think that is an interesting combination that happens when we have these long-standing relationships with people. I didn't actually expect that to happen. My background in the military was like, no chance. Like, I basically did evals, follow-ups. I didn't get to do any rehab with anybody. And they sure as hell weren't coming back for maintenance work. Like, it's just not happening, bro. Get out of here. We don't have the resources. But in our clinic, we get to work with people for years. It's such a cool relationship. And they talk to you about their life, things that are going on. Like, there is a certain element of it that bleeds into mental health. And why not? It's a huge part of pain as well, we know, right? So, like, this is an interesting combination that we're seeing, and what people are saying they value, we provide. And that is an interesting perspective to have in terms of what we value ourselves as, and I think, frankly, we undervalue ourselves way too much. But other people do not undervalue us at all. Insurance does. We think we're worth what insurance says, but why do they get to decide? It should be the consumer. Okay, let's talk about recurring revenue with longevity, because they go hand in hand. And I can tell you right now, the single biggest push that a lot of the clinics that we work with is to really dial in ongoing recurring services that are helping people live high-performance, pain-free lives. All right? And I'll give you a few examples of this, which is interesting. We were talking about small group right before this. And one of my favorite things, if I have to pick one, it's going to be small group training with your clients, and your PTs are running that in your facility, in your gym area of your clinic. This is an easy bolt-on. It's fun to do. People love it. Misery loves company. Get them in a small group, not too big, small enough, 5, 6 people where you can coach them. Let your staff, use their brain a little bit differently. The revenue per hour is great. Even for us, we probably could be on the higher end, but we charge $400 for twice a week for training in Atlanta. So that's $50 per person per session. We're maxed out at 6. We have a wait list. That's $300 an hour our provider is now generating with them just training people. And the average stick rate for us, meaning lifetime value for these people, is over 3 years. That means once they start with us, they're training with us for 3 years. More people have left the group because of moving than actually wanting to stop working with us because of any other reason. So this is fantastic. We see a lot of remote work, remote coaching. So you like to program, you like program design, you like, remote coaching. Maybe you want to get into nutrition with this, which is below this as well. There's a lot of ways to do this now. A lot of people are looking for it. A lot of people have home gyms, they're training remotely, and they want a really, really dialed in program, and they want accountability from somebody they can reach out to. That expert that can be that sort of quarterback of their health and wellness. Accountability and coaching. This is something that, I don't know, you hear accountability and coaching and people are like, what does that even mean? Accountability for something like you just telling somebody you're going to accomplish, like, I want to do this thing, increases the likelihood that you do that. If you check in with them every single week, it goes up dramatically, right? And we know what we ask people to do predominantly is make habitual lifestyle changes and do weird little exercises, all right? Be honest with yourself. Or we stick needles in them, which how normal is that? Like, we're asking them to do weird shit. So we have to get buy-in. We have to have trust, accountability, and being their coach, and whatever it is that we're disciplined in, and whatever we want to do, and matches with their skill set. That's really, really important. Niche-specific programs are another one. If you have an insurance-based clinic, this is one of the easiest ways we've found that you can add cash-based services on that are going to bolster your margins. Because the biggest problem for insurance clinics, especially if they're not super high volume, is that they don't have great margins. They're not getting reimbursed a lot per session. So if you have somebody in your clinic, let's say that they're into golf, well, let them create an exit program for golfers where they can do some sort of training with them, whether it be remote, in person, whatever it is, and you bolt onto the back end, right? It's like a mullet. It's like business in the front, party in the back, right? Let them do their thing in the back that they enjoy. You do your thing in the front for whatever it is they have coming in for the insurance that is covering that. That's a great way to do that. The last one would be health optimization. And this is where we truly bleed into longevity. Now, look, I've been wearing which Silver's is on? I've been wearing a Whoop for like 4 years, okay? in the last 4 years, I've seen some insane changes in the platform. Number one, you can get blood panels through Whoop now. If you want to order your own blood panels, I don't have to be a physician or a healthcare provider or whatever. I literally go on their app. I say, I want to get blood panels. I go to LabCorp. They take it. They upload it to their platform. The UI is amazing. It's super easy. It tells you on a reference range where you're at optimal, sufficient, insufficient. Like the average person can do that now. It has its own algorithm for your inner age. Listen, I don't even know how it works, but I look at it and I want to make sure I'm not older inside than I am outside. It gamifies it. People are doing this all the time. Think about how many people come in and ask you about peptides, these supplements right now. One of my buddies is in Colorado. He says 1 in 4 new patients come in asking him about peptides. If you don't know about peptides, probably a good thing to learn, not going anywhere. And also, like, this is the information we can distill for people to be that central person for their health and wellness. Think about how much bullshit is on the internet, on social media about supplements and, you know, whatever. It's like stupid shit that doesn't work. Sometimes it's potentially dangerous and they don't know. But now all of a sudden they have somebody who can synthesize that information for them. That is incredibly valuable. Okay. And for us, what we do is we have ongoing relationships with provider or with patients where we see them 1-2 times a month, depending on what they're doing, sometimes more. And this is what we're working on. Half the time, and this is always kind of funny for me, every time I have a student and I have like recurring patients, I'm almost like, for the next couple hours, you shouldn't even be here because all I'm going to do is talk to these people about the Braves, you know, and they're like, what? Like, why would somebody come in here just to talk to you? It's like, because they like coming in here. It's the best hour of their month. They come in here, we ask them about their life, we do some manual therapy work, we progress some exercises. I had a guy that used to come to see me every single Monday just to spot him on bench press, believe it or not. I would never do this. Like, to work with us is like $200 a visit. Every single Monday, he cried when I told him I wasn't seeing patients anymore. Like, it's just interesting when you start to see what people value, right? And like the ongoing relationship and trust you build with them. So like, I would not pay somebody to spot me on bench press every Monday, you know, $800 a month, but he did because he tore his pec bench pressing. It was really important to him. It made him feel better to do so, right? So like health optimization and being that person that can be the longevity sort of like key person for them, people are searching for that. It's going to be a big trend over the next few years, period. This is what I consider a blue ocean as well. So a red ocean means there's a lot of competition. It's well known. And, you know, this is what I would consider like insurance-based clinics, red ocean. There's a lot of competition. If you're going to try to compete against these national brands right now, good luck. It's going to be hard. A blue ocean it's newer. There's less competition. You know, people are looking for this. You're providing it. It's like so easy to catch fish, you know. Be in a blue ocean, not a red ocean. I think all the things that we just talked about put you in a really good spot. Okay. Private equity. Let's talk about private equity. Anybody had a conversation with private equity yet about their clinic? It's here? No? Okay. In the last year, I've spoken to 2 family offices and about 5 different private equity funds that are interested in physical therapy clinics, in particular, cash-based clinics, because we control our own pricing power. This is a paradigm shift, by the way, okay? From 12 years ago when I started my clinic. I can promise you, private equity is not interested in talking to us. Private equity, by the way, is just a fancy term of saying pooled money where people buy businesses, private businesses. So instead of them investing in Google, they buy a business, typically a group of businesses or a really big business. Last year alone, we helped 2 clinics sell to private equity that were cash-based clinics. This is a sellable thing. There's interest in it. Do I want to sell to private equity? No, I do not. Does that mean that it's not the right choice for other people? It could totally be the right choice for you. But just the fact that they're interested shows me they're not dummies, and they're not putting their money in something they don't think is going to improve over time. They're incredibly savvy investors. And when I look at the conversations we're having, here's what they like the most. Number 1, we have recurring established volume. Recurring dollars are very important. In fact, a recurring dollar is worth more than a reoccurring dollar or a new dollar. It's funny how they calculate those things. That's why software is worth so much money. It's sticky, it's recurring, it's scalable. The other thing is that we have pricing power. We say what we're going to charge. No one tells us what we're going to charge. We can pick. So they like the fact that there's insulation, a moat around that versus your reimbursement getting cut every single year if you're in network, which is tough, right? So here's the pros and cons of this because it really is, there are pros and cons. It's great that we have clinics that are valuable enough for things like private equity and family offices to take a look at. That's been happening in the insurance world for a very long time. One of my first mentors, the group of clinics that they have now is probably worth $1 billion. And, you know, I talked to him maybe 3 months ago when he was in town, and he was like, I never saw this in what you did, dude. He was like one of the first people that told me, like, you're creating a job. And he's like, I was wrong. This is crazy how it's transitioned, and this is actually something that they're aware of and they're really interested in now. So they're more valuable. There's exit potential for significant money. When we talk about an exit from a business, that's maybe you've never met somebody who's sold a business. There's no greater sort of money event in your life, aside from winning the lottery, than selling an actual business that is doing well. It is a solid business. You know, nothing will change your family's financial position more than that, aside from winning the lottery. You got a better chance of starting a business that's successful than the lottery. It means that they're really scalable, but currently fragmented. So PE doesn't get into industries that are consolidated already. They're looking for fragmented industries because they can gobble up businesses for low multiples. So they pay less for businesses because they're small or they're fragmented. They cobble them together. They call it a roll up, and they sell it for a lot more money. So this is the strategy in a nutshell. Let's say they have, I don't know, a few $1 million or whatever. It's probably a lot more than that. And let's say they buy 20 clinics that are all small cash clinics, right? Those clinics, let's say they're all making $100,000 in net profit each, all right? So that $100,000 in each clinic, when they cobble them together, they may have bought it for a 3 times multiple. So 3 times that $100,000, they buy each clinic for $300,000. When they cobble them together, now all of a sudden they may be able to get an 8 or a 10x multiple. So that clinic revenue, if it stays exactly the same, that means it's worth either $800,000 to $1 million instead of $300,000. It's middle school math is what they're good at. And they pull these together, which is a hard thing to do. And that's what they're doing right now. So if you are building something that you want to exit, you're probably gonna have a chance to do that. But the cons are this: you're gonna have more sophisticated competition. It's already happening. We've already seen that. You're gonna have to be a better business owner if you wanna compete, period. It's also gonna be harder to start in some ways. I think, you know, it's obviously like one of the easiest businesses to start, low overhead, dip your toe in the water without, you know, really taking on a ton of debt. But I think it gets more competitive. So for you, if you want to do this, you have to understand, if I go back to my MBA jam skills, you can't have shitty business skills. You got to be a good business owner as well. And that is a different skill set. So please understand, you passed a lot of hard tests. You're very smart people. You can learn other things, you learn whatever you want. You just have to turn your attention to the right things. All right, trend 3. How could you not talk about AI, right? It's everywhere. In fact, it's everywhere here at this conference. I was talking to the UK guy last night about AI and how they're using it to try to help with the overwhelm in their federal system. It's a socialized system, and they have sometimes a 6-month wait list to get in to see physical therapy, which is wild. So they're trying to create AI models for very simple things that people can engage with to really handle a lot of that sort of overflow, which sounds awesome, right? So here's my thoughts on AI, all right? I think, and this is in our profession, by the way. So I think it's going to remove repetitive and mundane tasks. And I think it's going to allow us to focus more on our patients. This is a really, really good thing for us. And I'll show you a couple examples of what I think, you know, is already happening that people are using. It's also going to make clinics, brick and mortar businesses, more profitable because it's going to reduce our administrative burden. Now, is that a good thing for people that want to be administrative assistants? Probably not. So with a benefit one way, maybe it's a negative on the other side. But if you have an AI-enabled admin, front desk manager, and they're using agents along with them actually doing their job, they can do the job of 2 people. I see this in legal field, finance, healthcare right now. Healthcare's a little slower to adopt, but it's happening. And I think it's going to make these businesses even more of a better business to own, actually. So I'll give you a really good example. So this is a marketing partner company of ours called Patch. For the last 6 months, Patch has been building a external brain of IP, so intellectual property. And what they're doing is they've created an AI agent that will function as an augment to the administrative assistant that you have. So when we sat down with Jeremy, the person that owns this company, he said, all right, well, he's owned clinics, sold a clinic, like he knows all about it. He's like, I think the biggest problem is follow up with administrative staff. Like they don't want to follow up with people. No one likes to call people 7 times, text them. They feel like they're bugging them, but we know we need to follow up for people to come in because they're busy. So we built this to actually have an AI agent follow up with people in an intellectual manner. And this is something called the Turing test. Turing test is where if you can't tell that something is not human and it's an AI, it passes it. And when we look at conversational text right now, we're very close to passing the Turing test with AI, meaning you wouldn't even know if this agent was following up with you that it wasn't the office manager. Because text is great. It's not a voice, which is harder. There's a lot of pauses. It's kind of weird. It sounds like a creepy robot. But when you look at text, it's great. And it knows all the laws. It doesn't text you on Christmas because you're not allowed to do that, right? It also learns from all the other conversations that are coming in. So we have all this data from calls we've had coming in, real conversations in the clinics. We feed the model. Now the model's plugged into all these clinics across the country, and it gets better every single day because it learns, oh, don't say that in this example. And the whole point of it is how do we get better follow-through or throughput for leads that are coming in the door? But also, how do we remove something from our office manager so she can ask people about how their weekend was and focus on them? And she would much rather do that than text people 7 times. You know, that's a really cool win-win, I think, that's happening right now. This is a real example in AI currently within these clinics. Also, from an ROI standpoint, we're seeing about a 20 to 25% throughput improvement versus an admin following up with people. So if you spend money on ads, now they've just become 25% more effective. This is Claire. Claire is a documentation tool. There's a lot of these. And what's cool about these is we know no physical therapists like to write their notes. I don't like to have to follow up with them to make sure that they finish their notes. And especially evals and follow-up, like reevaluations, they're a heavy lift. Heavy lift. Now, we can just hit a button. We can talk to them. The note is completely written for them. Just plug it right into their EMR. Good to go. We're seeing on average, if someone's just using this in a cash clinic, which is low volume, 2 hours of time saving for a staff member. The hardest part about this is getting a physical therapist to use technology. That might be the hardest thing to do in the entire profession. It's insane. And I was there when we transitioned from paper notes to EMRs. I saw it firsthand. I saw 2 people quit the clinic that I was at whenever we went from paper to EMR. They were like, this is crazy. This will never work, you know? And they're like, this is way better, actually. And guess what? We still use this. So, like, it's going to happen now as well. But for your staff, if you're trying to reduce burnout, you're trying to keep them around and retain, we know in these clinics, if you lose somebody, it is a massive loss to the business. It's a huge, heavy lift to try to find somebody. And a lot of it is if they're getting burnt out, like who wants to write notes? Nobody, right? So this is huge. You can save a lot of time doing it, and it's actively happening in the profession right now. Here's a funny little story I'll tell you about this. This is, I have a training partner. I work out with this guy, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 days a week. He lives in my neighborhood. We coach baseball together. He asked me, he said, hey man, I haven't worked out since I wrestled in high school. I want to get in better shape. He sells wine for a living. He's a sommelier, right? So all he does is go to like nice restaurants and drink wine. Tough job, not the healthiest job. But he's been training with me now for about 3 years. He's a part of a few nonprofits where he donates his time with a chef, where they'll come in and they'll do private events as fundraisers for these nonprofits. So he was at a nonprofit event just last week, right before I came out here. And he came and he goes, I got to tell you this funny story about this guidance counselor I talked to. Is a high school guidance counselor. So I said he was pouring her some wine, asking her, like, what do high school kids want to do these days? And she said, well, one of 2 things. They either want to be entrepreneurs, they want to own their own business, or be physical therapists. And I was like, that's funny. He said, because I know a guy that does both of those things. He said, he's my buddy. I'll tell him tomorrow. And he asked her, he said, why do you think that is? And he said, well, entrepreneurship is far more visible. You know, it doesn't feel like it's this foreign thing you can't do now. It's highlighted a lot on content and social media, YouTube, whatever else that people want to absorb. And so they see it. And it's almost like, it feels like it's more attainable. But physical therapy is interesting, and here's why. It's twofold. It's the students want to do something non-technical. And this is a really interesting transition. I don't know if you see this. I see this with my kids as well. It's almost like they don't want to use technology. They want to hang with their friends. They want to enjoy being around each other in a non-technical way. And kids are wanting to go in professions that they're going to get that in their life. Parents want to pay for school that they think their kids are going to have a shot at a good job that's not going to get replaced by AI in a few years. And that combination is our profession. It's very interesting to hear that. And I think this is a one-off anecdotal story. Obviously, take it as you want, but it makes sense, a lot of sense. And I've had multiple parents in our own neighborhood that have reached out to me about physical therapy because they see the same thing. Could you imagine spending $100,000 on a degree to become a computer software engineer and graduating right now with all the shit that's going on? This isn't a fad, by the way. AI is this isn't a made up thing. If you think this is a bubble, you're wrong. You aren't using it. We use this every single day in our companies. We use it every single day in our clinics. Don't just put your blinders on and think this ain't a real thing. It totally is. So our profession, though, sits in a really unique place. I would not be worried if I was a physical therapist. I wouldn't be worried if I owned a clinic, and I do. I think it's a great place to be, actually, especially over the next 10 years. And here's why. I think we have three big things that put us in a spot where it's very hard to offset. Number one is trust. Look, humans trust humans, period. That ain't changing anytime soon, and especially somebody who's in pain wants to see somebody else who understands that. Two, human touch is incredible. It's an incredible thing, but it also is very hard to replicate in any way. And say what you want about manual therapy and the research around it. I don't really care how you feel about it, but there's something there that's beneficial. Being able to create a pain difference, whatever it is you want to do with somebody after that, whatever. But there's a difference between a robot hand and a human hand. There's a difference between the energy that comes out of that, the feel that people have. There's a huge difference. I don't know how that gets replaced, to be honest with you. Teaching is the last thing. Building trust and being able to educate people long-term, people that want to be able to take care of themselves with somebody that can really distill that information for them, I think is a huge catalyst for us as well going forward. And it really comes off the back of these other two. But here's what I think is going to happen. I think AI is not going to replace physical therapists, but I think physical therapists who use AI, they will replace the ones that don't, especially if you're in private practice. And I 100% mean that. For instance, just yesterday, we were building out sort of the architecture to do an internal program developer. So, we write a lot of programs, home exercise plans for our staff. And for us to centralize that and be able to have 80% of that work done for our staff so that they can curate the last little bit of it based on archetypes that we see coming in and all the reps we've had over a decade of people coming in the clinic, that's going to save our staff 15 to 20 minutes every time that they're going to write a program. What's that times the number of people that are working with? These are the things that we're talking about that can be done. And you can have this amazing strength and conditioning, physical therapist brain that's living there and able to help your staff do their job. What they can't do is talk to that person face to face. They can't build that rapport. They can't use their hands the way that we can. But they sure as hell can help with some of the administrative things. Just think about this. If there's something redundant that's happening in your business that is computer-based, that doesn't involve forward-facing things with people, how do you offset that? How do you build something that's going to make that more efficient and take the time away from your staff and let them focus on the people in front of them? All right, final thoughts. And this is where I'm gonna make a bold statement here at the very end, but I think cash clinics have fantastic growth potential. Hybrid clinics, I think, are a fantastic model, especially in certain areas that are smaller markets, or high density of aging populations. You want to have Medicare plus cash. These work great. They're fantastic. AI-enabled clinicians, you're going to win. You just have to it's always hard to learn a new skill, but I think of it like the internet, right? It's like if a clinic is using paper notes versus a clinic is using an EMR, which I saw that transition, think about the amount of data that clinic is going to get from all these other things that are not documentation. And the providers are just thinking, well, I like to write my paper notes. We don't really care because what I can't get out of that is distilling all this additional data is going to help me make better decisions as a business owner. So we make the transition, and that's going to happen here as well. You got to focus on the long game. Here's the biggest problem we see in our profession. Evaluate, treat, discharge. Amateurs focus on the front end. The true revenue, the true long-term change with people is an ongoing work, recurring revenue. I'm not sure how we got this stigma about maintenance being a bad thing in our profession. Massage therapists don't have that. Chiropractors don't have that. I mean, shit, every time I go to the dentist, I have to schedule a year out just to make sure I get in every 6 months. We do a bad job of this. And I think it's something we can absolutely improve and are in a lot of ways. But the lifetime value of somebody in your clinic will skyrocket. The dependency on new patient volume will plummet. When we see that you only need 5, 6 new patients a month versus 20, that game's different. That's the game we want to play. And we want to work with people for a very, very long time. And here's the last thing. I honestly think in the next 10 years, there's going to be a cash-based physical therapy group, a clinic group that's going to be worth $1 billion. I think there's a couple right now that are probably trending towards 100 million. And that's really cool to see. That should be something that you're excited about if you're in business yourself. That's not something for sure I would have thought would have happened 10 years ago. It's happened in the insurance community plenty of times, but in the cash-based world, no. And I think what's going to happen is you're going to see a combination of both patient treatment, some sort of ongoing service, and they're going to scale a great brand either regionally, if not nationally. And I hope it happens because it is needed and there's a market for it. And there's going to be some savvy person, maybe even sitting in this room, that is going to be a part of that, and it's going to be a cool thing to watch. So that's it.